And we're back again this week, cats, on the Balls from Ellwood show. And what a show it's going to be. What is the Balls from Ellwood show, you may ask? In case you are listening for the first time or the 100th time, you will know that we are, in fact, passionate about many, many things. We are passionate about music, mostly punk, ska. We are passionate about horror films, and XTina is very, very passionate about true crime. And this week, we have a very, very special guest. And not only that, we're going to have a super duper mega depraved filled episode of the Balls from Ellwood show. This is a very special episode. You're going to have so much depravity by the end of this episode, it's going to be leaking out of your ears, kids. So, XTina, why don't you tell the audience what we have in store this week?
Well, in keeping with the theme, first of all, we had a very, very special guest. His name is Dr. Cyril Wecht. He is a very famous forensic pathologist, also the former coroner of Allegheny County in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for many years, and he's just a fascinating guy. Lots of information. I mean, he has a law degree as well. He's just a wealth of knowledge, and he does. He's done a lot on TV with different cases. You've probably seen him as a guest speaker, on court TV over the years, and things of that nature. So he was gracious enough to give us a few minutes of his time and let me pick his brain a bit and ask some crazy questions. So we're not going to do a regular show today with all our goofiness. They're taking us pretty seriously. But since it's pretty much the XTina takeover, we're going to go with that. So what do you say we do a little depravity here?
Hey, you're steering the ship today, XTina, so I'm just handcuffed here to the old microphone, and I'm just going with the flow. So you might as well, let's call it today XTina, the XTina show.
XTina's Depravity Takeover.
Yes.
All right. Well, so let me take it over.
Hey, let's dig on in, man. You start. We're going to see how much depravity will fit in a 30-minute show. Hopefully, it doesn't explode. So do your thing, girl. Do your thing.
Well, all right. So I'm going to talk about a case that I'm pretty sure the whole world has heard of by now. The unfortunate incident that happened at the Mall of America over the weekend, I guess 2 weeks ago. It was a terrible thing. I mean, imagine. Here you are. You're at the mall. You're with your kids. They run off on you. Of course there's always stranger danger. Someone's going to steal your kid or something, But you never imagine this. A random stranger walks up to your 5-year-old kid on a 3rd-story level of a gigantic mall and throws them over the railing, 40 feet below. Miraculously, this child is alive. He fell 40 feet. He suffered head trauma, multiple broken bones. He's been fighting for his life in a hospital in Minneapolis. We're not getting much information on him as the family is trying their best to remain as private as possible during this. I mean, good God, I can't imagine what they're going through. I mean, I know the mother watched it happen and she screamed, "Oh my God, my baby, my son, what do you do? You can't do a damn thing." And, when I initially heard this story when it broke, I heard that a boy was thrown over 3 stories in the Mall of America. I assumed that it was a parent and that they were, really aggravated with little Johnny that day. But apparently, no, this was a completely random dude. Doesn't know the family, doesn't know anybody. Now, here's where it gets interesting. So this dude is a 24-year-old black dude who looks relatively normal. I mean, he, doesn't look like, he's not like a dirtbag or anything like that. He's, dare I say, relatively handsome. I mean, he's just like a normal-looking dude that you would never, ever expect to do this to your child. And so it's just bizarre. So he grabs this kid, throws him over the banister, and we come to find out that he suffers from mental problems. His name is Emmanuel Aranda, and he is officially charged with premeditated first-degree murder. Initially, it was homicide. Now, it's changed because he admitted that he was, quote, looking for someone to kill, end quote. He apparently went to the mall the day prior and was looking for an adult to kill. Like, the goal was always to throw somebody over the banister. But, apparently he either chickened out or all he said was it didn't quite work out. So the next day he found this young boy, and that's apparently the one that worked out for him. He's been banned from this mall several times since 2015. He has a history of misdemeanor convictions. He got in trouble in the mall for throwing an object over the banister. He's had several issues, and he has just, why is he still running free? I guess you can't really throw someone in jail for life for throwing things over a banister at a mall, but again, and I guess you can't, in the Mall of America, how do you control watching one particular person at all times to see if he was in there? So it's all around a damn shame, and, but it's so bizarre that, that was his goal, and he accomplished it. I guess the good news, if there is good news, is he's in prison on a $2 million bond, so chances are nobody's getting him out. So he'll be appearing in court on May 14th. We'll be finding out more about him soon. But the family's trying to, keep a low profile as they are, praying and fighting for this kid's life. The good news is, I guess a relative or family friend put out a GoFundMe. It is up to over $700,000 at this point. So, talk what you want on GoFundMe. People do abuse it just like people abuse a lot of things, but that is what it was intended for, and thank goodness it exists, because clearly they're going to have a heck of a lot of bills. I understand, I think the kid underwent brain surgery. Let's just hope for his sake that he is, relatively, normal once this comes about. I pray that he is. So hopefully he makes it. Hopefully it's a miraculous recovery story, but what a bastard, man. What a bastard. What are you supposed to do with people like this, Balls?
These are the kind of people I would like to throw over a banister.
Well,
it's so bizarre to me. There's so many different bizarre aspects to this particular case. I'd like to get mad at the Mall of America, but I've been there, and I see how unrealistic it would be for them to police that big of a place. And
right. Looking for one dude all the
for
time.
one guy,
Yeah.
He's been thrown out multiple times, but even, it's so expansive, it would be very easy for somebody to slip in, so it's very unrealistic to kind of pin the whole thing on them. That being said, I don't understand how this guy's still walking around. If he's had so many different instances, and he shouldn't be surely out in the public roaming around to do things over and over and over again.
Right.
That's
And I wonder if this has anything to do with, it seems like they closed all the state mental hospitals, over the years, and that's a shame, because they need to exist for this reason, because clearly this dude isn't...
That's pretty much what this is all about.
It really is.
It's more or less a case of people that run rampant now, and you never know. This guy could have needed or wanted help and have tried to get it, and I play devil's advocate. He probably, in this age, it's hard to have mental illness taken seriously, not alone provided for nowadays. That's why it's a very problematic thing for sure.
Right, and I did read that his motive was the reason he's so angry with life is because he hangs out in the mall and hits on women, and they don't reciprocate. Again, creeper.
Well, see, this guy's clearly crazy.
Right. Right. But that's the thing. He clearly is. So, I don't know. He needs to get a dating app or something. Jeez, doesn't he know how to do it the new fashioned way?
Yeah, man. Swipe right.
Swipe right. I don't know, man. But, it's a damn shame for everybody involved. Hopefully, this dude does stay in prison or somewhere and gets whatever he needs, but I mean, he's clearly cannot be released into society. He is the perfect example of must be contained, and hopefully forever. But it's a shame, and who knows if would mental health facilities, would medicine, quote unquote, cure him? I don't know. That would remain to be seen. But do we want to take that risk? I don't. What if it was my kid? What if it was your kid? That's just way too scary.
It is very scary nowadays to even be in public because you don't know what's going on with people. You don't know who's off their rocker and who's off their meds and marbles. I mean, I don't even like to. That's the first thing I think of when I'm in a big crowd anymore, and that's sad because it was never like that growing up. But I mean, that being said, it's just a tragedy all around.
So yeah, everybody keep little Landon in your prayers. That's his name. We don't have a last name. That's all we know. But you can look up if you just do a random Google search, you can look up the GoFundMe and throw him a few bucks. God knows they're going to have a ton of expenses for brain surgeries and Lord only knows what. So that would conclude the Depravity Corner for this week.
Well, I mean, since you are bringing depravity tenfold this week, there's no sense of putting it off anymore. You just gave us the first dose of depravity, so let's just get to the meat and potatoes of this show, the XTina Depravity Takeover this week, cats. We have a very, very special guest, and I have to say I am very proud for you cats to hear this interview. I think XTina knocked us completely out of the park. I am completely proud of her in every aspect of this, and I am excited for this audience to hear this. So, without any further ado, I would like to present you our own very XTina interviewing famous pathologist and what used to be a coroner. Was that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Dr. Cyril Wecht.
So today we have a very special guest with us. We have Dr. Cyril Wecht. He's very well known as a renowned forensics pathologist. You may have seen him on various shows giving out expert advice on cases such as O.J. Simpson, John Benet Ramsey, the JFK assassination. He's written several books over the years, and he also does live speaking engagements. So, Dr. Wecht, I would like to talk about your early years, the time you've spent as the county coroner. How exactly did you become interested in that career path?
Well, I became interested first in the subjects that are at the interface of law and medicine. So I made a decision about my third year of medical school that I was going to get a law degree. Once I made that decision, then I looked around to see what specialty in medicine was most frequently and meaningfully involved at that interface. And clearly it was and is forensic pathology by the very nature of what you do as a forensic pathologist. So then I did my internship after graduation from medical school, then my 5 years of residency in pathology, 2 at the VA University Hospital in Pittsburgh, 2 in the United States Air Force. I was a captain at Maxwell Air Force Base Hospital, Department of Pathology, and then my 5th year in forensic pathology at the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner of Maryland in Baltimore. And I earned my law degree during that same 5-year period, 2 years at Pitt Law School while I was a resident there in pathology, and then my final year at the University of Maryland in the evening while I was doing my fellowship in forensic pathology.
Excellent, excellent. So let me ask you this. I mean, obviously you've seen a lot of things in your lifetime that many of us, hopefully never have to. That has to take a toll. And I mean, how do you channel through that? Is there, do you do meditation? I mean, what sort of things get you through to keep your mental health intact?
Well, there's no specific training for that. I would say that you do become somewhat used to dealing with the decedents not insensitive or indifferent to the tragedies that you confront, but you learn to deal with it, as some specialists in fields of medicine do when you think about unpleasant aspects of some clinical medical specialties. Wonder how some people do that.
Right, right. It just takes a special person.
Right. It's something that you become programmed for. You still have the same kinds of eyes and nose and ears and overall feelings of sensory perception and sensitivity that everybody else does, but you're dealing with something. If it is important and meaningful and challenging to you and intellectually something that is stimulating, then that's how you deal with those kinds of unpleasantries.
Right. Was there any one particular case that really impacted you and kind of kept you up at night over the years?
Well, there have been cases that have troubled me emotionally, mentally, intellectually, and still do, that I deal with. For example, the political assassinations of John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and Reverend Martin Luther King. Insofar as cases that are troublesome from a purely visual standpoint in terms of what you have seen, sure, you think about cases like that, especially cases involving children.
Yeah, that's sort of what I always think of when I think of what has to be the hardest.
Always the worst, and especially if a child has been brutalized, if a child has sustained significant traumatic injuries, and people sometimes who are mutilated in various ways. Certainly, these things remain with you for a while.
Right, right. Well, with that being said, I mean, I know a lot of times when you're doing an autopsy, you come to, I guess, a conclusion that there is no conclusion. And how frustrating is it when you have to write the words undetermined on your reports?
Well, you're quite right. On the death certificates made out by coroners and medical examiners, there is a box to be checked off for manner of death. Hospitals and doctors don't have that on their death certificates. It's just assumed that they are all natural deaths. On the coroner medical examiner death certificate, they're listed as natural, accident, suicide, homicide, or undetermined. And sometimes that is the case. I just finished a report now of a young woman who was psychotic, being taken to a psychiatric hospital. She leaped out of a car, and she wasn't found until months later, completely decomposed, just skeletal remains and so on. So there you have both cause and manner of death that are really undetermined.
Right. Right.
So these things, the answer is that you should not have such an ego as to think that there aren't going to be cases in which you cannot express opinions with a reasonable degree of medical certainty. Do keep in mind that a forensic pathologist does not properly express opinions with absolute certainty.
Right.
Forensic pathology is not an absolute science.
Right.
Physics, chemistry, mathematics, perhaps astronomy, these are absolute sciences. The only absolute science in the entire gamut of forensic pathology and the things we deal with is cellular DNA.
That was my next question, but this will tie in nicely. So yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, DNA and all the advancements that have been coming along today, it's just been incredible how many unsolved cases are coming to get closure and all of that. And I mean, my understanding is, when you match that DNA, I mean, it is absolutely, positively has to be that person. One in, hundreds of billions of a chance that it is that person, correct?
That is correct. If it's done honestly, competently, by a skilled technician, then that finding is exclusive for everybody else that has ever lived on the face of the earth, unless you had an identical twin.
And let me ask you this. So I understand, there's been some cases solved from using familial DNA, but a lot of states are kind of opposed to it. Do you understand? I mean, why? I mean, is it just running the risk of getting the wrong person? Is that what you think they're afraid of, and will that, in your mind, become a requirement at some point?
Well, it is a very interesting question. It goes far beyond the field of forensic pathology. It deals with law, it deals with civil liberties, it deals with basic civil rights, and a lot of other things. How intrusive can government, can law enforcement become in a democracy such as ours? So you reach out in obtaining something that is from a member of the person's family. First of all, how do you do that? Is it all done surreptitiously? Is it done in some kind of deceitful fashion? Is it done with the person's knowledge from whom you're getting that specimen, and so on? And then you have to be careful in how you follow through and what conclusions you arrive at, because these things do become attenuated. It's not as if you're identifying that individual. You're identifying somebody maybe within a particular ethnic group, racial, nationality group, and even among various ethnic groups and so on. You got to be careful because of the intermarriages, the people moving over the centuries from one area to another and so on. So it can be quite misleading. Right. I think it's, I would not suggest that it not be done, but I would not be in favor of going around and doing something that has not been properly and formally legitimized, maybe something similar to getting a subpoena, for a search warrant or so on. It's something to think about. It's the people who are the searchers, they want to just go and do everything, and then who monitors the searchers? Something to think about.
And then I guess that could lead into possible setups and things of that nature.
Yes.
Maybe too. Yeah, that's a good point. So let me ask you this. I just really have one more question, and then I'm going to let you, promote a book or two or a speaking engagement here. But what would you have done in your career had you not chosen this path? What dreams, other than if you had any other thing in your life and you look back and say, maybe I could have been a rock star. I don't know, something crazy.
It's an interesting question, and one I can answer quite quickly. The one thing that I would have liked to have become, and had I been successful, I would have had to give up forensic pathology, and that was when I ran for U.S. Senator in 1982 against the incumbent John Hines. I didn't want that very much. That's a meaningful position, 100 people dealing with all of these issues that are of importance to our country, to the world, and so on. So, unfortunately, it was an uphill battle against a strong, extremely wealthy incumbent. I ran a good race, but other than that, there's nothing that I think that I have missed. I like some other fields of medicine, but nothing that I would have wanted to become a full-time permanent practitioner in.
Great. Overall, you feel very fulfilled, correct?
Yes, I do. I don't say that in a complacent, arrogant fashion, but yes, I do feel that I have a specialty which I'm continuing to practice at my age, and still looking forward to a few more years, and so on, as long as I'm able to use my mind and so on. But it is meaningful because you're dealing with all the important things in life on the civil and criminal side: families, law enforcement, attorneys, judges, communities, public health, welfare, safety. What more is there, really? If you think about all of those areas of activity, what else is there left that is meaningful?
That's right. Well, listen, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day. I want to let my listeners know that you have written several books over the years regarding JFK and the assassination, also regarding John Benet Ramsey. I know you have several books you've written. People can find you on your website, which is just www.cyrilwecht.
No, oh, that's the website. Yes, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I interrupted
That's
you.
okay. No, yeah, I just want to make sure that I have it. It is just www.cyrilwecht. Is it .com? I believe so.
Yes.
You can Google Dr. Wecht and find out all kinds of wonderful things.
I'm listed. Well, I thank you for asking. My last book, I would like to call attention because it has some interesting cases with local flavor. Final Exams. I wrote it with Donna Kaufman. Final Exams. That's a very, very good book. And then, there are all the other books. My first couple of books, in fact, are being republished in the next few weeks. Cause of Death and Grave Secrets. And then the other books are Who Killed John Benet Ramsey, Tales from the Morgue, From Crime Scene to Courtroom, A Question of Murder, and Final Exams. So I suggest you look if people are interested in these cases, whether it's the political assassinations, Elvis Presley, Marilyn Monroe, O.J., John Benet Ramsey, Waco, Branch Davidian fire, whatever you're interested in, Vincent Foster, Sonny Von Bulow, Phil Spector, Chandra Levy, they're all there. So just, I guess you check with Amazon, right? And
that's right. Everything's on Amazon these days.
And you'll find cases to keep you awake and interested.
Absolutely. Well, great. I'm looking forward to seeing you at, there's going to be an engagement next month, May 11th, here in my hometown of Midland, Pennsylvania, at the Lincoln Park Performing Arts Center. Already got my tickets. I am psyched.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They tell me they're already getting a very good response.
Great.
They sold out 3 performances in Westmoreland County just a week ago.
A couple of my friends were there. They said it was fantastic.
Yeah. And
not to be missed.
I look forward to it. Then I'll please come up and say hello, okay?
Will do, Dr. Wecht. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. A pleasure.
Have a good day.
Have a good Easter holiday. Take care.
You too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
And that just about concludes this episode of the Balls from Ellwood Show this week, cats. Be sure to tune in next week where I'm going to be catching up on a lot of different horror news, such as our thoughts on what the new Chucky doll looks like in the upcoming remake, or as I like to call it, poop. But anyway, I'll be talking about that. I'll be talking about the trailer release for the upcoming remake of Child's Play, which I'm really not excited about. But I'm sure we'll go check it out regardless. I mean, I like to say all these dumb things, and I know I'll go see it, so, I mean, it's hard to say. Other than that, there's a bunch of movies being re-released in the theater over the summer that are all classics from my childhood. I'll be telling you a little bit about that. I'll be telling you a little bit about some upcoming guests that I have procured. I can give you one as a teaser, but I have many, many guests coming up here in the future of the show. But you can, in fact, look forward to next week, cats. You know her from the last drive-in. She is Joe Bob Briggs' sidekick. She is Darcy the Mail Girl, so she will be coming up next week. I sit down and do a interview with her. That should be pretty interesting. We talk horror movies and lots more. So tune in. Don't forget. Mark it on your calendar. Write it on your hand. Even write it on your forehead so when you look in the mirror. But just don't miss it, cats. Peace and love. Peace and love.